Before your audience reads a single word you've written, before they watch your video, click your link, or read your bio, they've already started forming an impression of you. Not based on your credentials, not based on your offer, based on something much more instinctive than that. And understanding what that is and how to work with it deliberately is one of the most powerful things a filmmaker knows that most founders don't. In filmmaking, we use something called archetypes, not as a gimmick, not as a personality quiz, as a structural tool for making characters immediately recognisable to an audience. An archetype, at its simplest, is a universal character pattern, one that appears across every culture, every century, every form of storytelling, because it maps to something in the way human beings understand each other. Carl Jung identified them as patterns in the collective human psyche. Joseph Campbell built his entire theory of the hero's journey around them, and every film you've ever loved uses them without you consciously noticing. And here's why this matters for founders. Your audience is making decisions about you faster than you think, often in the first few seconds of encountering your content, your website, and your bio. If your story, your voice, and your presence are built around a clear archetype, they understand you almost instantly. There's a recognition, a familiarity. I know who this person is. If they're not aligned, if your story says one thing, your content says another, your visual brand says a third, your audience gets noise. They can't quite place you, and a person who can't quite place you tends to move on. Let me walk you through the archetypes I see most consistently in the founders I work with. The first one is the hero. They're driven by challenge, transformation, and the belief that anything can be overcome with enough will. The hero's story is one of proving something is possible, often against the odds, often against the voice that said it couldn't be done. If your story is fundamentally about what you overcame to build what you've built, you're probably a hero archetype. The next is the rebel. So they challenge the status quo. If you've built something because the existing way of doing things wasn't working for you or for the people that you serve, the rebel isn't difficult for the sake of it. They're principled, they see something others don't, or refuse to accept something others have made peace with. If your business exists because you looked at an industry and thought, this is broken, I'm going to do it differently, you're probably a rebel. The next is the sage. These founders are the guides, the experts, the person who has earned knowledge through experience and shares it with authority. Not arrogance, authority. There's a difference. Arrogance closes a conversation, authority opens one. So if your business is built on insight or education or guiding others through something you've navigated, you're probably a sage. The next is the creator. So they're driven by vision and originality. They build things that didn't exist before. They value craft, the quality of the thing made, not just the outcome it produces. The creator's story is almost always that they couldn't stop making, even when it wasn't practical. So if making the thing, the quality of it, the intention behind it, is as important to you as the result it produces, you're probably a creator. The caregiver. So they're motivated entirely by the transformation of the people that they serve. The caregiver's business is built around a pain that they've either experienced themselves, witnessed closely, and couldn't walk away from. If the reason you built your business is fundamentally about not wanting someone else to go through what you went through, you're probably a caregiver. So here's where I see founders go wrong with archetypes. They treat them as a box to tick. They do a quiz, they get a result, and they slap it on their bio and carry on. And that's not how it works. An archetype isn't a label, it's a lens. So it's the thing that when you understand it clearly, suddenly it makes all your instincts make sense. So why you communicate the way you do, why certain stories feel like yours and others don't, why some brands feel like home and others feel like performance. And the other mistake is trying to be too many at once. A lot of founders are a blend of the archetypes, and that's fine, but there's usually one primary archetype, one that sits underneath everything else and really drives the story. The question worth sitting with is this: what is the thing I'm fundamentally building toward, and what am I fundamentally against? Your archetype lives in that answer. Once you know your primary archetype, your founder story starts to organize itself differently. You stop trying to include everything. You start choosing the moments that are on archetype, the ones that make sense in the context of who you are and what you're building. A hero's story needs the wall, so the moment where it was hardest and they didn't stop. A rebel's story needs the moment of refusal, so the thing they wouldn't accept even if it would have been easier. A sage's story needs the turning point of understanding, so the moment they knew something that changed everything. A creator's story needs the thing they couldn't stop making even when nobody was watching. A caregiver's story needs the person, the specific human experience that made the mission personal. Your archetype tells you which moments belong in the story and which ones, however true, however significant, to leave on the cutting room floor. Archetypes aren't a shortcut to connection. They're a framework for clarity. And knowing exactly who you are and making sure that your story, your voice, and your presence all say the same thing is what makes an audience feel like they know you before you've ever even spoken. That's not luck, that's filmmaking craft. Done. Yeah.